So I would tell someone, don't give up hope before the miracle happens. If you give up hope and let's say you're just done, there is a way there, and Jesus is that way.
Today's conversation is one of raw truth, deep faith, and unshakable resilience. My guest, Tina Rosa, grew up in the Bronx learning how to survive long before she had language for resilience. Her journey includes childhood trauma, addiction, desperation, anxiety, and moments where giving up felt easier than holding on. But her story doesn't end there. Tina shares how an encounter with Jesus transformed her life, helped her rebuild her identity, and led her to redemption. As the author of the new book, Redemption 651, and a woman now pouring hope into others through ministry and youth for Christ, Tina's story reminds us that resilience isn't about avoiding the fall. It's about rising again. This episode is for anyone who needs hope today. Hi, everybody. Welcome to my Resilience Reveal with Lisa Sinnott. Today, we have the amazing Tina Rosa. She is in Florida, and we are going to hear her story today. Welcome, Tina.
Thank you, Lisa. Thank you so much for inviting me.
Your story is so incredible, and I can't wait for everyone to hear it. So let's get started. I've got an amazing lineup of questions for you, and I look forward to everyone hearing your amazing story. So growing up, you grew up in the Bronx, New York. My goodness, I'm from New York too, and we have the same birthday. That's a fun fact.
Yes.
So tell us a little bit. I mean, resilience usually happens when you're in survival mode. And so let's talk a little bit, as a child, what was it like just trying to make it through each day in the Bronx?
Well, the South Bronx was a pretty tough place to grow up. In the 60s, it was full of crime and drugs. And, it was more of I needed to be protected. And my parents did that. But what happened is as I grew older, I started to make all these bad decisions. So survival was pretty much staying away from crime, staying away from people who were trouble. My dad showed me, the people to stay away from. And of course, he's not always going to be there. So there were times that, my cars were stolen. I was mugged at knife point. With a knife to my neck on a subway. So it was pretty rough. And I'm so glad I'm in Florida.
So childhood trauma can really affect you later as an adult, right? Like, how did you talk about what inner strength that you found within yourself, just trying to survive your early years up through to high school graduation?
Okay, my early years, I guess my first trauma was my oldest brother. He tried to commit suicide, and I was 3 years old. I was hanging onto his leg, and he went out. And he didn't die, but his spine was ripped open. And as a child, I looked down. We were on the third floor, and all of his insides were hanging. That traumatized me for a long time because I felt that if I had let go of his leg, he would not have gone over. So every time I saw him in that wheelchair, I felt guilt. So guilt started very young for me. And the seed of suicide was planted. And later on, that would envelope me on trying to take my life.
Wow. Oh my goodness. I didn't hear that story about your brother before. That's really horrible. Is he still alive?
No, he's passed, but he was a dancer. And after he jumped, he never danced again. And he died in like a nursing facility for about mental illness. And he was confined to the wheelchair. He was 21 years of age when he jumped.
Wow. My goodness. So do you have other siblings?
I have 4 other siblings. One of them has passed, my oldest brother. And then I have another brother and 2 sisters. So now there's 4 of us, and I am the baby.
Me too. Babies are fun.
Yes.
We can be demanding sometimes, but it's fun. So going back, like you walked through, addiction, depression,
suicidal ideations, mental illness, just everything just based off your experiences as a child. What kept you going? Like, what kept you holding on during those moments? Can you just share a little bit on what made life a little easier? What did you do?
Okay. Well, I grew up in Catholic school. My mom was Catholic, and I was in Catholic school for 8 years. And in Catholic school, I knew of God, but I didn't know how to have a relationship with Him at the time. So I made all these bad decisions. One of them is I was in a same sex relationship for over 30 years. And because of that, I became depressed. I had anxiety. I didn't want to live because, I didn't understand why I had these feelings for the same sex and why I wasn't like everyone else. And I asked God to help me. And, as I look back, I know that it wasn't on my time, it was on his. And the reason he didn't is because he was going to, and he did now, for me to share my story. So a lot of what led to my addiction was that I was not happy with myself. I felt unworthy. I felt that I couldn't go to God, that I wasn't I how can I go to him when I was such a bad sinner? As I learned later, we're all sinners and none of us are worthy. However, he loves us anyway. And I cannot sin his grace. And when I knew that he still loved me, I ran to him. And that's how I was able to manage all of these things. I no longer wanted to kill myself. I mean, I still have trouble still comes, like Jesus said. We're always going to have trouble. I just handle them differently today because I have my father to turn to.
So tell us a little bit about how your faith in Jesus rebuilt your identity, going from your past lifestyle, all of a sudden Jesus moved in your heart within you, deep within you, obviously, for you to do a shift. Explain all of that because that's a lot.
Okay, well, once this all started the day I died, I pretty much went to the hospital and flatlined twice. And as I flatlined, I saw my funeral. I was looking down on my coffin and my family surrounding it, devastated in tears. And, I said at the time, how could I have done this to my family? I loved them so much. I didn't have love for myself, but I had so much love for them. And at
Yeah.
that time, they used the paddles and they brought me back. And when I came back, I said, "Oh, thank God it was a dream." But God knows how stubborn I am. So I went I flatlined for the second time. And this
Wow.
time I heard the voice of God say, "If you don't change your life, this is your future." And, I didn't want to go to hell. That was one of the reasons I never went through with my suicide because I learned in Catholic school that that's a straight ticket to hell and I didn't want to go there. So I never went through with it. But when I had that spiritual awakening and came back, all I could think about was finding out about God, not knowing of him, but knowing him. And as I knew him, my cousin sent me a beautiful Bible. I started to read it. She told me find a church. And it's funny how I found my church. I went to two churches and, one of them was closed. The other one, I didn't feel was right. And I see this red sign. It was sort of like a sign to stop here. And it said exalt. And it must have been the Holy Spirit. I drove in there and it was a different atmosphere than what I've ever known to be a church. There were warm people there. They wanted to get to know me. I felt accepted. And I walked in there, not the way I look today. I looked like a boy. I was broken. I was drug addicted. And little by little, as Jesus touched me, my life began to change. And they supported me, answered my question. My pastor is a great pastor. He knew exactly where I was in the Bible whenever I asked him something. And I began to study. I started to go to Hillsdale and Dallas Theological Seminary because I didn't just want to memorize like I did in Catholic school or Our Father. I wanted to know what these verses meant. And as I learned them, I began to transform. Those feelings of same sex attraction, they seemed to disappear. I no longer felt that way.
Handle that emotionally. Like, how did you handle it? Because that's a big transition.
It was a big transition. And I was actually living with the person I was with for over 30 years. And I just didn't have the same feelings anymore. I had changed. reading the Bible transforms you. You become new. And once I knew how God saw me, I began to see myself that way. And I transitioned and I became who you see today.
Wow. So talk about your spiritual growth, how you're able to do that. Because there's so many people that are hungry for a story like you have, like reading the Bible and being transformed and feeling brand new. And what's your advice to them?
The best advice I can give is to surrender. One of my mistakes was I wanted to do things my way. And one of my favorite verses is trust in the Lord with all of your heart, with all of your mind, and do not lean on your own understanding because he will make straight your paths. And he did that for me. As soon as I let my will over to his, then things started to change in my life. And even difficult times, because I have difficult times. I still get hurt. People still die. I'm still tempted. But if I make a mistake, now I know how to get up. His hand is always outstretched to me. I know to confess my sins, to get prayed for, and he sends me where I need to go. If I need to get counseling, if I need to go to my pastor, the Holy Spirit tells me to do that and I obey. And
So,
that's how it happened. The first thing I did was surrender.
so Tina, you have a new book out, The Redemption 651. Congratulations, by the way. So, in your book, we all know resilience doesn't mean that the struggle goes away. Life is lifey, the whole thing, right? And when you're dealing with practical getting out of addiction, getting out into a healing space versus the depression and anxiety and all of that, talk about what practices are you sharing this detail in your book as well?
My book goes into very, very uncomfortable detail of my life. It's my story, and I didn't want to do it. The Holy Spirit, he was with me all the way, but there was a lot of tears, a lot of doubt, anxiety, because I don't hate the gay community, and I don't want them to think that I'm judging them because I judge no one. I was part of that community, and I'm here to talk about my story and what God did for me. And maybe someone in reading my story can have the same experience. Things are so much better in my life. And even though I have struggles, I know he's always there with me. And this book, at the end of this book, I felt like I was physically attacked with this anger, anxiety. I didn't want to do it, and I couldn't write for 21 days. I took 30 days off devotionals, and I had to finish the book, and I couldn't do it. And I started to I plead the blood over my house, over my family, and all of that started to disappear. That night, I wrote 80 pages and finished the book.
That's amazing. I mean, I am a believer as well, and the spiritual world is alive and very real, and people don't realize that because they can't see it. But I've experienced similar situations like that. So thank you for sharing that. Now, let's talk about, I love how today you've got your devotionals, you're helping on the prayer line. So talk about how you helping others is serving, strengthening them.
Well, what that does is I don't do it to earn God's favor because none of us can earn a place in heaven. But because of my love for him and what he did for me when he died on the cross, I am trying to help other people get there. And the way I did that first was writing the book and writing my journey and how I find my way to Jesus. And now I write devotionals to inspire other people, whether they're a believer or not. I have probably close to 150 people that I write to every day. Some are believers and some are not. And, just strengthening someone who believes or someone who's having doubt. That's what I try to do every day. Then on the prayer line, there's a lot of lost souls that call. Some are not believers, but they have nowhere else to go. And, but Jesus is the way. That when you're at a dead end, he makes a way for you. And, I want to be on the other line of that phone call to save someone from taking their life because I've been there. Giving back is very important to me. And when I'm giving back, I'm not thinking of myself. I'm getting outside of myself. and I'm doing the Lord's work.
Yes. And let's talk about Youth for Christ, working with teenagers. You're doing so much. And thank you. By the way, I have teenagers in my life that I am raising. So I know there's a lot of resilience with that. But where do you see this generation of teenagers going? And how are you giving them hope?
Well, one of the things that made me work with teenagers was this is where I had struggled the most when I was in high school. I was trying to find myself, my identity. I went with the wrong crowd, and that's where the alcohol began and smoking began and all of these choices that I made. So this is where my heart lies, to stop them from making the mistakes that I make, to share my story with them, to encourage them. And I believe that teenagers today are hungry for a way out. They don't want to live a life of despair. When I grew up, Jesus was not mentioned as much as he is now. There's a revival going on. And a lot of teenagers that I've seen are hungry for the word. And I'm just humbled that I'm able to do that for them.
That's so awesome. Do you go on any trips, missionary trips or anything like that? Or are you just remotely pouring in on what we've already talked about?
I'm remotely pouring in, and hopefully I'll be traveling to promote my book and to go to different states and who knows, different countries maybe. But with Youth for Christ, they go on camping trips. And hopefully this year I'll be on one to Tennessee, and we camp out and, you know, just get to know each other. Once these kids get to know you, they begin to share with you what's going on in their homes. I mean,
Yes.
some of them are from broken homes and they need someone to talk to. When they begin to trust you and share those things, it's more likely they're not going to turn to drugs. They'll turn to us.
Yes. No, that's awesome. Thank you for that. I know this generation needs that and more people like you pouring into them. And so, Tina, before we close out, I have a question in regards to the resilience realm of someone who might be listening to you now on this recording, who might be broken, lost, ashamed, you name it. And they're just at their end. What do you want them to know about redemption and what their future could be?
Well, first thing that helped me is to know that my sins are forgiven. Everything that I've ever done, everything that I'm going to do, because we are born with sinful natures and we sin. We get angry. We get cut off on the road and we may have a knee jerk reaction. But I know that Jesus died for that and he doesn't condemn me. And that was what my biggest problem is, being judged, being condemned. No one is going to judge someone who's broken that comes in for help. And I had a problem asking for help because I grew up, you don't cry, you don't ask for help. What happens in this house stays in this house. So I had trouble reaching out and saying, I need help. Now I can do that. And I can go and get the help that I need for whatever situation I'm facing. So I would tell someone, don't give up hope before the miracle happens. If you give up hope and let's say you just done, there is a way there, and that Jesus is that way. There's nothing else in this world that's going to help permanently. It'll help temporarily, maybe, but it never lasts. Jesus is everlasting. He's forever, and you'll have everlasting life. And I truly believe that. And all you need is faith of a mustard seed, just faith in something other than yourself, that you can take yourself out of depression and out of that situation you're in. And just say, God, help me. Talk to him. He wants to hear from us. He knows what we're thinking, but he wants to have a relationship with us. He wants us to talk to him. He knows what we're feeling. He knows our pain. He knows our tears. He knows what we're going through. And everyone, there's a lot of people that says, well, where was God when this happened? He was right there because you're still alive to talk about. So he never leaves you. He's always with you. And when you're struggling the most, that's when he's most present because he's close to the brokenhearted.
Awesome. So tell us real quick, where did the name Redemption 651 for your book come from?
Well, this redemption was because that's what happened in my life. And the 651 signifies the house I grew up on. I grew up on 1 Cortlandt Avenue, Bronx, New York, and it was a 3-story house. And this house is where I had all these issues started to develop. The same-sex attraction, the suicidal thoughts, thinking that, I'm going crazy. The drug addiction started. All of these things started in this house. And I happened to have a dream that I wrote a book called 651, probably 10 years before I wrote this book. So when I thought about that, I said, well, the word redemption stood in my mind, and I added the 651.
Love it. Well, thank you so much, Tina Rosa. Where can everyone find your book?
It is available on Amazon, Barnes and Noble, Kindle, and I'm currently working on the audiobook, which is coming soon. I do have a website called redemptionwithtina.com where I have all my devotionals and funnies every day, Monday through Friday. I take a break on Saturday and Sunday, but you can go on the site and there'll be a new devotional every day. And if you sign up, you have a chance to win a free book. On April 6th is when I will announce the winner. So
I
go
signed up.
ahead.
Awesome. Well, thank you again, Tina Rosa, for this amazing life resilience story. I love your raw honesty, and there's a lot of people that I believe will get a lot from this. So thank you so much.
Thank you, Lisa. You have a blessed day.
Before you go, I want to ask you, do you have a life resilience story? A season you've walked through, healed from, and are now ready to positively articulate the hell of it and what you did to rise up out of it? If your story can bring hope to someone, I'd love to hear from you. Reach out and let's reveal your resilience right here on My Resilience Reveal with Lisa Sinnott.